The Chimera Corps, Chapter 1, Crucible of Creation. The rhythmic beeping of life support systems echoed through the dimly lit corridor. It was a lifeline's pulse in the cavernous underground research facility, a testament to humanity's resilience against the relentless onslaught of the krill. The air hung heavy with the metallic tang of ozone, a sterile contrast to the ravaged world above. Every flicker of the fluorescent lights painted stark shadows on the whitewashed walls, a chilling reminder of the darkness that had befallen Earth. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, a woman whose once vibrant auburn hair now bore streaks of premature gray, leaned against the cold observation window. Her eyes, the color of faded emeralds, were fixed on the lone figure pacing within the sterile chamber. "His vitals remain stable, Doctor," a young technician reported, his voice barely a whisper above the hum of the machinery. "Muscle mass is increasing at an accelerated rate, but within projected parameters." Blackwell nodded absently, her gaze never leaving the man in the chamber. Leonidas, the first successful chimera, a living testament to her genius and perhaps her folly. He moved with the sinuous grace of a predator, each step a controlled explosion of power. His skin, bronzed and glistening with sweat, rippled with muscle that shouldn't exist on a human frame. "He's magnificent," Blackwell murmured, more to herself than to the technician. "A perfect fusion of man and beast." And yet, the technician hesitated, a nervous tremor in his voice. "We haven't seen him like this before. The aggression, it's..." Blackwell sighed, pushing away from the window. "I know. The line's influence is becoming more pronounced. It's a risk we knew we were taking." "But is it a risk we can afford?" the technician pressed. "The krill are closing in, Doctor. We need him ready. Stable." Blackwell turned, her eyes hardening. "We don't have a choice. Humanity is on the brink. The Chimera Project is our last hope." She crossed the room to a console, her fingers dancing over the controls. A holographic display flickered to life, revealing a map of Earth dotted with red krill incursion zones. The once blue planet now resembled a festering wound, its continents scarred by war and ecological collapse. "The krill are relentless," Blackwell said, her voice a grim monotone. "Their bioengineered soldiers are superior to anything we can field. Our conventional forces are being decimated." The technician swallowed, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. "The Chimera. They're our only chance, aren't they?" Blackwell nodded. "They are. Leonidas is the prototype, the first of many. If he succeeds, we can turn the tide of this war. If he fails..." She trailed off, the unspoken consequences hanging heavy in the air. Suddenly the alarms blared, shattering the tense silence. Red lights flashed, and the ground trembled as explosions rocked the facility. A chill ran down Blackwell's spine. The krill. They had found them. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel," Blackwell barked, her voice now laced with a steely determination. "Seal the lab. Prepare Leonidas for deployment." The technician hesitated, then saluted. "Yes, ma'am." Blackwell turned back to the observation window. Leo stood motionless, his head cocked to one side, listening to the chaos outside. His amber eyes glowed with an eerie intensity. "It's time, Leo," Blackwell whispered, a tremor in her voice. "Show them what you're made of." Leo's lips curled into a feral grin, revealing a flash of sharpened canines. He slammed his fist against the reinforced glass, sending spiderweb cracks across its surface. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the facility, he shattered the glass, shards raining down around him. He was no longer a man in a cage. He was a predator unleashed. Chapter 2. Unleashing the Beast. The Chimera Corps chopper shuddered as it descended through the swirling vortex of a sandstorm. The gritty grains whipped against the armored hull, a constant barrage that threatened to strip the paint and sandblast the windows. Inside, the four members of the Corps braced against the turbulence, their faces grim, their eyes focused on the mission ahead. "10 clicks out," the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, a thick Texan drawl cutting through the static. "ETA 5 mics. Get ready to saddle up, Chimeras." Leo Lionheart, seated at the head of the cramped cabin, flexed his fingers, the scars on his knuckles a testament to countless training sessions and sparring matches. His enhanced senses, A gift from his lion DNA already tingled with anticipation. He could smell the acrid tang of krill pheromones in the air, taste the metallic dust on his tongue. The hunt was on. Anya Volkova, the viper, sat across from him, her legs crossed, her posture impossibly perfect. Her serpentine eyes, a mesmerizing shade of emerald green, flicked over the mission briefing one last time. Every detail, every contingency imprinted on her mind. There was no room for error. Beside her, Marcus Delgado, the eagle eye, adjusted the straps on his flight harness. His gaze was fixed on the tactical display, his enhanced vision piercing through the sandstorm, mapping the terrain with an almost preternatural accuracy. He was the eyes of the team, his eagle DNA granting him a perspective that no human could match. Sarah Jensen, the wolf, sat hunched in the corner, her arms wrapped around her knees, her head bowed. She was the quietest of the group, her wolfish nature more attuned to instinct and emotion than words. But beneath her calm exterior, a fierce loyalty burned, a primal need to protect her pack. The chopper touched down with a jolt, kicking up a cloud of dust that momentarily blinded them. The ramp lowered, and Leo was the first out, his assault rifle at the ready. The others followed, fanning out into a tactical formation, their movements practiced and precise. The krill outpost was a sprawling complex of metal and concrete, nestled in a shallow depression in the desert. It bristled with antennae and sensor arrays, its walls scarred by past battles. A handful of krill guards patrolled the perimeter, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming in the harsh sunlight. The chimeras moved like ghosts, their enhanced agility and senses allowing them to slip past the guards unnoticed. Anya slithered through the ventilation ducts, her movements silent and deadly. Marcus took to the skies, his wings carrying him to a vantage point where he could monitor the entire base. Sarah circled the perimeter, her nose twitching as she sought out weaknesses in the krill defenses. Leo led the charge into the main complex, his rifle barking as he took down the surprise guards. The battle was swift and brutal. The chimeras moved with a ferocity that the krill had never encountered before, their animalistic instincts honed to a razor's edge. The mission was a success. The chimeras retrieved the intel, eliminated the hostiles, and escaped without a single casualty. They returned to base, battered but unbowed, their reputation as humanity's most formidable weapon cemented. But the war was far from over. The krill were a relentless enemy, their numbers vast, their technology advanced. And as the Chimera Corps prepared for their next mission, a dark shadow loomed over their victory. The world watched them with a mixture of hope and fear, their existence a beacon of both salvation and ethical quandary. Chapter 3. Venom and Fury. The humid air clung to their skin like a second layer, the thick canopy of foliage barely filtering the sickly yellow light of the jungle moon. Each step sent swarms of bioluminescent insects scattering, their eerie glow illuminating the treacherous path ahead. The Chimera Corps moved in silence, their enhanced senses attuned to every rustle, every snap of a twig, every subtle shift in the air. "Eagle Eye, what's your status?" Leo whispered into his comm unit, his voice a low growl that matched the tension in the air. "2 krill patrols converging on your position." Marcus's voice crackled in his ear, a hint of concern in his tone. "Suggest you alter course, sir. Now." Leo glanced at Anya, a silent question in his eyes. She nodded, her lips a thin, determined line. Her viper senses had already picked up the approaching danger. "We'll take the high ground," Anya hissed, her voice barely a whisper. "Wolf, you lead. Eagle Eye, cover us from above." Sarah, her wolf instincts guiding her, moved with uncanny speed and agility, scaling a towering moss-covered tree trunk in seconds. She reached a thick branch, her claws digging into the bark, her eyes scanning the surrounding jungle. 2 o'clock, she whispered, pointing with a gloved finger. "Moving fast." Marcus swooped down from the canopy, his wings barely making a sound. He perched on a nearby branch, his rifle trained on the approaching krill. "Got them in my sights," he muttered, the words barely audible even to Sarah's enhanced hearing. The krill, clad in their chitinous armor, moved with surprising speed through the undergrowth. Their mandibles clicked and clacked, a chilling sound that grated on the chimera's nerves. "On my mark," Leo whispered, his eyes narrowed, his muscles coiled like a spring. 3, 2, 1. Anya struck with the speed of a viper. She dropped from the tree, landing silently behind the krill. Her fangs sank into the first one's neck, injecting a potent neurotoxin that paralyzed its nervous system instantly. The second krill barely had time to react before Marcus's rifle cracked, the high-velocity round piercing its exoskeleton and ending its life. The chimeras moved on, their silent efficiency a stark contrast to the krill's clumsy aggression. They reached the perimeter of the research facility, a massive structure built into the side of a cliff, its metallic surface gleaming ominously in the dim light. "Eagle Eye, give us a layout," Leo ordered. Marcus relayed the information, his voice calm and steady. "Main entrance heavily guarded. Thermal sensors on the perimeter. Secondary entrance on the west side appears less secure." Anya's lips curled into a predatory smile. "Less secure is just what we need." She led the way, her movements so fluid they were almost hypnotic. The chimeras reached the secondary entrance, a narrow tunnel carved into the rock face. Anya pressed her hand against the access panel, her fingers tracing the intricate pattern. With a soft hiss, the panel slid open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. "This is it," Leo whispered. "Let's go get our prize." They moved through the facility like shadows, their enhanced senses guiding them past krill patrols and automated defenses. Anya's Venom silenced guards with terrifying efficiency, while Sarah's keen nose led them to the heart of the complex, a hidden laboratory where the krill's bioweapon was being developed. The air inside the lab was thick with the stench of decay and chemicals. Glass vials filled with strange liquids lined the walls, and strange, pulsating pods hummed with an eerie energy. "This is it," Marcus whispered, his voice tight with tension. "This is the bioweapon." Leo nodded, his eyes scanning the lab. "Let's get what we came for and get out of here." The mission was far from over, but the Chimera Corps had taken the first crucial step. They had infiltrated the krill facility and obtained the intel they needed. But the true test lay ahead as they raced against time to neutralize the bioweapon and save humanity from a fate worse than death. Chapter 4. The Lion's Roar. The asteroid's hollowed interior was a labyrinth of cold metal and pulsing lights, a grotesque monument to the krill's twisted science. The air tasted of ozone and decay, each breath a reminder of the horrors that lurked in the shadows. The Chimera Corps moved in tense silence, their boots echoing on the grated floor. Anya, her viper senses on high alert, slithered ahead, her night vision goggles painting the scene in eerie green hues. Marcus, perched high above on a ventilation shaft, scanned the area with his eagle eyes, relaying information back to the team. Sarah, her wolfish instincts tingling, sniffed the air, picking up the scent of fear and despair that permeated the facility. Leo led the way, his lion's mane bristling, his senses overwhelmed by the stench of alien chemicals and the guttural chirps of krill chatter echoing through the vents. They rounded a corner, and a scene of unimaginable horror unfolded before them. Rows upon rows of glass tanks lined the walls, filled with grotesque, writhing forms. Hybrid creatures, a sickening fusion of krill and human DNA, their bodies contorted and disfigured, their eyes filled with agony. "Oh God," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with disgust and pity. Marcus cursed softly, his usually stoic face contorted in anger. "The bastards!" Anya remained silent, her gaze cold and calculating. She had seen horrors before, but this was different. This was a violation of nature itself, a perversion of life. Leo's fist clenched, his knuckles turning white. A low growl rumbled in his throat, a primal fury rising within him. "We have to get out of here," he rasped. "Now!" But as they turned to leave, a muffled cry echoed from a darkened corner. They followed the sound, their hearts pounding with a mixture of dread and hope. In a hidden alcove, they found a group of humans, their bodies emaciated, their eyes hollow with despair. They huddled together, their fear palpable even to the Chimera's heightened senses. "We found them," Sarah breathed, tears welling up in her eyes. Leo nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "We're getting you out of here." The rescue was a blur of adrenaline and violence. The Chimeras fought their way through hordes of krill guards, their animalistic instincts unleashed. Leo tore through his enemies with the ferocity of a lion. Anya's venom silenced anyone who got too close, and Marcus's precise shots picked off targets from afar. Sarah, her protective instincts surging, shielded the rescued humans, her wolfish snarls deterring any would-be attackers. They escaped the facility, their stolen shuttle blasting off into the void, leaving the twisted monument to Krill cruelty behind. But the scars of what they had witnessed remained, etched into their minds, fueling their determination to end the Krill threat once and for all. Back on the TDA base, the Chimeras debriefed, their voices hushed, their faces etched with a newfound resolve. They had seen the depths of Krill depravity, the horrors they were capable of inflicting. They knew that the war was more than just a fight for survival. It was a battle for the soul of humanity itself. Chapter 5. The Phoenix Protocol. The rhythmic crashing of waves against the jagged cliffs was a constant reminder of their isolation. The TDA base, a hidden fortress nestled on a volcanic island in the Pacific, was a world away from the chaos of the war-torn galaxy. Yet even here, the echoes of conflict resonated. Inside a dimly lit lab, Dr. Blackwell hunched over a microscope, her eyes bloodshot, her fingers trembling slightly as she adjusted the focus. A petri dish lay before her, a swirling mass of krill cells pulsating with an eerie luminescence. "Damn you," she muttered, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. "Damn you all to hell." The krill bioweapon was a masterpiece of twisted ingenuity, a virus designed to unravel the delicate genetic balance of the Chimera Corps. It was slow-acting, insidious, turning their greatest strength into their ultimate weakness. "Any progress, Doctor?" Blackwell looked up, startled to see Leo standing in the doorway, his broad shoulders hunched, his amber eyes clouded with worry. "Not enough," she admitted, pushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "The virus is adapting, evolving faster than we can counter it." Leo stepped into the lab, his presence filling the small space with a sense of barely contained power. "How are they?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Blackwell sighed, her shoulders slumping. "Not good. Anya's venom is becoming unstable. Marcus is having trouble controlling his flight patterns. And Sarah," her voice trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Leo's jaw tightened. "We have to find a way to stop this. They're counting on us." Blackwell nodded, her eyes hardening with resolve. "I know, and we won't let them down." Just then an alarm blared through the facility, its harsh tone cutting through the silence. Blackwell and Leo exchanged a worried glance. "What is it?" Leo asked, his hand instinctively reaching for the pistol holstered at his hip. A young scientist burst into the lab, her face pale, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Dr. Blackwell, we have an unexpected visitor." Blackwell raised an eyebrow. "A visitor? At this hour? Who is it?" The scientist swallowed, her voice barely a whisper. "It's a krill, a defector." Blackwell and Leo exchanged a stunned look. A krill defector? It was unheard of. But if it was true, it could be their salvation. The krill scientist, a tall, gaunt figure with shimmering, chitinous skin, stood in the center of the interrogation room, his compound eyes darting nervously. He was unarmed, but his very presence radiated an aura of danger. "Why have you come here?" Blackwell asked, her voice calm but firm. The krill hesitated, then spoke in halting English. I seek asylum. I can no longer condone my species' atrocities." Leo stepped forward, his voice a low growl. "Atrocities? You mean the bioweapon you created to destroy us?" The krill flinched. "Yes, and worse. The experiments. The hybrids." His voice trailed off, as if the words were too painful to utter. Blackwell exchanged a look with Leo, a glimmer of hope dawning in her eyes. "What can you tell us?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The krill took a deep breath as if steeling himself for a confession. "I can tell you everything. The bioweapon's weaknesses, the location of the krill fleet, their plans for Earth." A tense silence filled the room. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. And in the heart of a hidden island base, an unlikely alliance was forged, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness of war. Chapter 6. Chimera's Stand. The sky was an angry canvas of crimson and orange, the air thick with the acrid stench of sulfur and ash. Molten rivers snaked through the volcanic wasteland, their heat distorting the air like a mirage. This was the Krill homeworld, a hellish landscape that reflected the twisted nature of its inhabitants. But on this day, the hellish landscape was transformed into a battlefield. The Chimera Corps, their numbers bolstered by a legion of human soldiers, descended upon the Krill stronghold like avenging angels. The roar of their gunships echoed across the barren plains, their weaponry spitting fire and fury. Leo led the charge, his lion's mane whipping in the wind, his eyes burning with righteous anger. He had lost brothers and sisters in this war, had witnessed firsthand the Krill's brutality and their twisted experiments. This was not just a mission, it was personal. Anya slithered through the Krill defenses like a wraith, her venom-coated blades a silent symphony of death. Marcus soared overhead, raining down a torrent of fire from his modified pulse rifle, his eagle eyes picking out targets with deadly precision. Sarah, a blur of motion, flanked the enemy, her wolfish instincts guiding her through the chaos. The Krill fought back with the ferocity of a cornered beast, their chitinous bodies swarming over the battlefield, their claws and mandibles tearing through human flesh. But the chimeras were relentless, their enhanced abilities and unwavering resolve pushing them forward. Amidst the chaos, a monstrous figure emerged from the Krill ranks. General Karzik, the leader of the Krill Chimera program, his body a grotesque amalgamation of Krill and human traits. He towered over the battlefield, his voice a chilling rasp that echoed through the air. "You cannot win, humans," he snarled. "We are the superior race, the apex predators of the galaxy. You are nothing but prey." Leo met his gaze, his own eyes blazing with defiance. "We are the Chimeras," he roared, his voice a thunderclap that drowned out the sounds of battle. "We are the protectors of Earth, and we will not fall." The two leaders clashed, their battle a whirlwind of claws, fangs, and raw power. The ground shook with each blow, the air crackled with energy. It was a clash of titans, a struggle for the very soul of two species. In the end, it was Leo's humanity that prevailed. His lion's strength was formidable, but it was his compassion, his love for his team and his planet that gave him the edge. With a final desperate lunge, he drove his blade through Karzik's heart, ending the monstrous reign of the Krill Chimera leader. With their leader fallen, the Krill forces faltered. The tide of the battle turned, and the humans, bolstered by the Chimera Corps' heroic efforts, pushed forward. The Krill, their morale shattered, were forced to retreat, leaving their homeworld in ruins. The Chimera Corps returned to Earth as heroes, their victory celebrated across the globe. But their triumph was bittersweet. They had lost friends, comrades, brothers and sisters in arms. They had seen the darkness that lurked in the hearts of both man and alien. Yet their sacrifice had not been in vain. The Chimera Corps had proven that humanity was not just a species on the brink of extinction, but a force to be reckoned with. They had shown that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit could triumph, that even the most monstrous creations could be redeemed. The Chimera Corps became a symbol of hope and resilience, their existence a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The world may have grappled with the ethical implications of their creation, but their sacrifice had paved the way for a brighter future, a future where humanity and nature could coexist in a fragile harmony, forever protected by the Chimeras, the guardians of Earth.